The government has said it will use the decisions of the British Court of Appeal against the Orams in various ways and towards various objectives, including the ongoing direct talks on the Cyprus issue. Spokesman Stefanou noted that such cases are very important, and this decision in particular sends out the clear message that properties in the occupied areas belong to their legal owners, and they have the first say on what happens to them. Mr. Stefanou also emphasised that the decision in favour of Greek Cypriot refugee Meletis Apostolides is a legal weapon that property owners can use to reclaim their properties. David and Linda Orams have built a summer house on Mr. Apostolides' land in occupied Labythos. Commenting on the Orams ruling, House Speaker Marios Garian said that it was a landmark decision which provides the Republic of Cyprus with the necessary arguments to claim its rights. He noted that it adds to the political and legal weapons available to the Republic and reinforces its positions on the refugee aspects of the Cyprus issue. Opposition DC leader Nikos Anastasiadis said that the Orams decision changes the situation in the talks, significantly strengthening the negotiating position of the Greek Cypriot side. EDEC MP Yorgos Varnava said that the ruling was an additional weapon for the Greek Cypriot side, particularly now during negotiations. The European party stressed that the court's decision provided solid ground for the struggle of the legal citizens of the Republic. The Greens said that they were pleased with the decision, noting its immense practical importance if it is used in the right way. Meanwhile, David and Linda Orams seem intent on demolishing the villa built illegally on Mr. Apostolides' property in occupied Labythos, in accordance with the court decision. In an exclusive interview with the English-language daily newspaper Cyprus Mail, the Orams said they were bitterly disappointed by the decision, with which they are obliged to comply. Saying that they are now under the instructions of the British court, Linda Orams noted they will seek advice from their lawyers and may apply for permission from the illegal authorities in the north in order to demolish the villa. She added that the court's decision will also affect hundreds of other Britons who have built on Greek Cypriot property in the occupied areas. However, in an interview with a Turkish Cypriot newspaper, Mrs. Orams seems to have expressed a different intention. She is quoted as saying that she and her husband will do everything in their power to overturn the implementation of the decision. Mrs. Orams is planning to visit the island next week in order to meet with so-called officials in the north.
The deadline set by the Court of Appeal of England and Wales for British couple Linda and David Orams to outline how they plan to implement its ruling on the Labythos property belonging to Greek Cypriot Meletis Apostolides came and went at noon today, UK time, with details from London, however, still scant by the time of us going on air. Speaking earlier today, however, the plaintiff's counsel appeared confident that while the Orams would be willing to pay the stipulated compensation, the actual demolition of the villa would be a totally different matter, given the pseudo-state authorities' expected refusal to grant the relevant permission. During a press conference held jointly with plaintiff Meletis Apostolides, Costantis Candounas said that more Greek Cypriots have shown an interest in pursuing trespassing charges against individuals making use of usurped property in the occupied areas, and that the legitimate owners of Kyrenia Dome Hotel have already instructed him to take legal action against scores of tourists who've holidayed over the premises over the years. On the British court's ruling in particular, Counsel Candounas drew attention to references made to the Turkish military's invasion of Cyprus in 1974, the fact that the illegally set up statelet is not recognised by anyone except Turkey, and to Britain's obligation to safeguard the territorial integrity and safety of the Republic of Cyprus. On his part, Mr. Apostolides stressed that the Orams' hardship is not a source of joy for him, and that all he wants is his property, while he added that those seeking to purchase landed estates in the occupied areas from now on should be particularly careful. Asked about the manner in which he expects the ruling to be implemented, he said that the Orams are now up against British justice and their very own country. On the political front, Cyprus's foreign minister today described the British court's ruling and its wider consequences as of particular significance, and said the government will be closely monitoring any and all developments. Speaking after a meeting with the delegation from the British Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Marcos Kyprianou further stressed that the implementation of the ruling is now a legal obligation, with this based as it is on the prior decision of the Court of European Communities, applicable to all EU citizens and binding for all EU member states. Elaborating, he added that equally important is the fact that the latest ruling confirms that the Republic's laws and constitution continue to be valid in the occupied areas, and this despite the current occupation and practical difficulties in their enforcement. This, Mr. Kyprianou continued, also goes for the European Commission, which, through a number of regulations decided upon for the bolstering of the Turkish Cypriot community, is active in the occupied areas. In closing, Cyprus's foreign minister pointed out that the ruling confirms the legal correctness of the Greek Cypriot side's positions on the ownership and use of properties in the occupied areas, while he disagreed with the Turkish Foreign Ministry's express position that the ruling will further complicate the current efforts towards a solution of the island's long-standing problem. As could have been expected, the British court's ruling has sent ripples through the occupied areas, with the Turkish Cypriot leadership yesterday holding an emergency meeting. Even though details about the contents of the meeting were not made public, taking part were Turkish Cypriot's leader Mehmet Ali Talat, the illegal regime's Prime Minister, Dervish Eroglu, the occupied area's so-called Ministers of Finance and Internal Affairs, and legal experts. Mr. Talat said prior to the meeting that the ruling will inevitably affect many areas, as well as the direct negotiations process itself. The Turkish Cypriot press, meanwhile, today reported a rising sense of panic, citing prominent industry, commerce, business and legal figures as warning of impending dangers to the sectors of construction and tourism in the occupied areas. Britain's Foreign Office, meanwhile, has issued a statement saying that the complex and sensitive issue of property in Cyprus can only be resolved fully within the framework of a comprehensive solution to the island's long-standing problem. Further calling on all Cypriots to wholeheartedly support their respective leaders' efforts towards this end, a spokesman for the Foreign Office said that the significance of the court ruling is fully recognised, even though he also pointed out that this is a legal rather than a political decision. At the same time, Britain's Shadow Justice Minister and Conservative MP David Burrows noted that the ruling provides legal support for the full recognition of all Cypriots' legitimate property rights within the scope of a solution of the island's long-standing problem. He openly called on the Foreign Office to make it perfectly clear to those British subjects in possession of and illegally exploiting land in the occupied areas of Cyprus that there are both legal and political consequences to their actions. On to other news now, and the European Union's recently elected president today realised a one-day visit to Cyprus within the scope of a whirlwind tour of member states. After being received by Dimitris Christofias at the presidential palace in Nicosia, Herman van Rompuy was the guest of honour at an official luncheon held in his honour, during which the two continued their talks in a pleasant climate. The EU president's visit came as part of his preparations for the 27-nation bloc's upcoming summit on the 11th of next month.
The European Union is following very attentively the process, and I would also like to recall our readiness to provide all the advice, all the support possible to find a solution. As you know, the European Union is actively supporting unification measures throughout the
island. του Βρετανικού εφετείου και τη δικαίωση του Μελέτη Αποστολίδη στην υπόθεση Orams, πολλοί πρόσφυγες ετοιμάζονται να κινήσουν νομικές διαδικασίες κατά ξένων που καταπατούν τις περιουσίες τους στα κατεχόμενα. Ο δικηγόρος του κ. Αποστολίδη, Costantis Candounas, έχει οδηγίες από τους ιδιοκτήτες του ξενοδοχείου Dome στην κατεχόμενη Κερίνια να προχωρήσει σε αγωγές κατά 60 τουριστών, οι οποίοι το 2009 κατέλησαν στο ξενοδοχείο.
The party is over.
Το πάρτι με την εκμετάλλευση των ελληνοκυπριακών περιουσιών στα κατεχόμενα έχει τελειώσει. Αυτή ήταν η χαρακτηριστική αναφορά του δικηγόρου του πρόσφυγα Μελέτη Αποστολίδη Costantis Candounas, αναλύοντας την απόφαση του Βρετανικού εφετείου στην υπόθεση Orams. Αφού ανέφερε ότι η απόφαση του Βρετανικού εφετείου είναι τελεσίδικη, ο κύριος Candounas εξέφρασε και την εκτίμησή του σε σχέση με την πτυχή εφαρμογής της απόφασης.
Θα πληρώσω το συντομότερο και σε ό,τι αφορά την κατεδάφιση της κατοικίας, θα έρθουν στα κατεχόμενα, θα υποβάλουν αίτηση στις κατοχικές αρχές για να τους δοθεί άδεια για να το κατεδαφίσουν. Οι κατοχικές αρχές θα τους πούν δεν σας δίδουμε την άδεια να το κατεδαφίσετε και θα πάνε πίσω στην Αγγλία και θα πούν ξέρετε εμείς θέλαμε και προσπαθήσαμε, δεν μας αφήνουν.
Ένεκα της απόφασης του Βρετανικού εφετείου και της δικαίωσης του Μελέτη Αποστολίδη, πολλοί πρόσφυγες επέδειξαν ενδιαφέρον να κινηθούν νομικά κατά ξένων που καταπατούν την περιουσία τους στα κατεχόμενα. Ο κ. Candounas επεσήμανε ότι ήδη έχει λάβει οδηγίες από τους ιδιοκτήτες του ξενοδοχείου Dome στην κατεχόμενη Κυρίνια, όπως κινηθεί νομική διαδικασία εναντίον 60 περίπου ξένων τουριστών, οι οποίοι το 2009 καταπάτησαν την περιουσία τους διαμένοντας στο ξενοδοχείο.